I think this is a really good opportunity for us to discuss what enabling behavior looks like. I believe what he was trying to express is what has actually got us into a lot of the problems we are currently in. A lot of the times when people look at negative behavior, whether that is someone who's an addict, whether that is someone who is a man, and we largely see this with men, but we also see it with addicts, and what family members will do is enable. They don't understand that not allowing people to face the repercussions of their actions is enabling. If you've ever had a member of your family who's an addict, they have to suffer the consequences of their behaviors. Even though you want to try and protect them from those behaviors, from those consequences, you love them, they're someone you value in your life, you have to let them feel the consequences of their behaviors. And if you don't, you will enable those toxic, those abusive, and harmful behaviors to continue. And now, what I do believe he was asking us to do was not hold men accountable and essentially, in ways, enable their behavior. Now, one of the things that he's doing is very much expressing empathy for the boys that he sees as similar to himself, but he is enabling. They help, rescue, support, or protect their loved ones from facing the negative consequences of their substance use. For example, giving money to them or paying their bills. Wanting to help someone you care about or groups of people that you care about is natural. However, don't let your behaviors prevent them from facing negative consequences. Enabling should be avoided because it can make substance use easier or increase use, or, like we're discussing, it can make violent and abusive men excuse their behavior. It's enabling them. I know the context of this is addiction. I think this is really relevant to the conversation around men. We need to have them feel the consequences of their actions and behaviors. Enabling is often a term used to describe the act of removing the natural consequences that arise as a result of substance abuse and or your own behaviors. While this behavior comes from a desire to help, it can worsen an individual's condition and make them less likely to seek help or make change, positive change. Protecting someone from the repercussions of substance abuse or their actions does not allow them to experience the damaging consequences of their actions, thus removing the incentive to change. Hitting rock bottom is one of the most powerful motivators that causes an individual to eventually accept help. Without this, addicts see no reason to change. When we think about the history of patriarchy and the fact that no matter how abusive you were, no matter what you did to women, you always had a woman. Whether that was your mother, whether that was your sister, whether that was a wife, a girlfriend, whatever that was, you were essentially, as a man, gifted a woman. And their repercussions for their behavior is no longer having access to women. And if we are to go to a place where women are doing the emotional labor of changing these men, that is enabling their bad behavior because they continue to reap the benefits of women's labor. White fragility, and this is the white supremacy, the Me and White Supremacy book. And I want you to understand that when I discuss this white fragility when it comes to racism, also apply this to men when it comes to male fragility, and specifically in this situation. In 2017, I published a blog post titled, "I Need to Talk to Spiritual White Women About White Supremacy." The post unexpectedly went rapidly viral to hundreds of thousands of readers around the world, and it elicited reactions of white fragility that ranged widely from seemingly well-meaning, "This isn't helpful, you're being divisive when you're talking about race," and men, to the blatantly vicious, insert black, misogynistic, Islamophobic rant here. So many of the white people who were interacting with my work had so little experience talking about race that any racial discussion led to them having a total meltdown. Two main factors that contribute to the existence of white fragility: lack of exposure to conversations about racism, lack of understanding of white supremacy, of what white supremacy actually is. How does white fragility show up? Or male fragility? Getting angry, defensive, or afraid, arguing, believing you are being shamed, crying, or simply falling silent and choosing to check out of the conversation, calling the authorities, the manager, the police, the social media censors on BIPOC when you are uncomfortable with what they are sharing about race. I have had my social media posts reported and censored more than a dozen times because of white fragility. Deleting what you wrote on a social media platform, another form of running away and pretending it never happened, or physically leaving a discussion when you cannot handle where a conversation on racism is going. In essence, white fragility looks like a white person taking the position of victim when it is in fact the white person who has committed or participated in acts of racial harm or misogyny. The desire to be seen as good by yourself and by others prevents you from looking at the ways you unknowingly participate and are a part of white supremacy because of your white privilege. Your desire to be seen as good can actually prevent you from doing good, because if you do not see yourself as part of the problem, you cannot be part of the solution. White fragility makes you dangerous to BIPOC. When conversations of racism arise, you jump into defense mode, making you unable to really hear and understand the pain and challenges of BIPOC. The focus becomes to defend self and really one's white privilege and white supremacy as a whole, rather than opening yourself up to the experience of becoming consciously aware of what your privilege has protected you from. White fragility thus makes you an unreliable ally to BIPOC because you do not have the resilience needed to talk about racism. When your BIPOC coworker, friend, or family member shares with you an experience of racism that they have been through, you are unable to hear them. You try to convince them that they're imagining it or reading too much into the situation, that they have misunderstood what was being said or done, that it was not about race, that it was about something else, rather than allowing yourself to really hear what they are going through and ask with empathy and compassion how you can support them. You minimize their experience and let them know without saying it that you are not a safe white person for them to be around. As much as you think you have convinced yourself and them with these explanations, all you have really done is make clear your level of white fragility around racial conversations. Going a step further, white fragility, which is really fear, can quickly turn into active harm, like going fight or flight mode. Your white fragility can cause you to run away, shut down like a deer in headlights, or become aggressive, violent, or harmful to BIPOC by striking back. In a conversation on racism with a white woman who is a spiritual life coach, she angrily snapped back, "Well, what about black supremacy?" This was a woman who prided herself on being about love and light, but under pressure of being called out for unintentional white supremacy, she struck back. She later came back and apologized, realizing it was her white fragility that she had spoken from. And this is what I mean when he's running away from the conversation. He feels attacked. He feels as if he's the victim in some way. Someone said he posted a video about ableism. This is not about ableism. This is about accountability. And I do not believe in enabling toxic and abusive and manipulative behaviors that are addressed towards marginalized communities as like BIPOC and women. If you are an ally of women, you will listen to the women who are trying to kindly, and not only that, but a lot of the people that I've seen that he's blocked were people who followed him. They were people who liked them. They were people who genuinely were trying to give constructive feedback. But the thing is that white fragility as well as that male fragility showed up. The reality of it is there's been many a times where people have called me out for not talking about things, and I had to sit back. And why do you think I went and got books and started educating myself, and I'm taking the time to educate other people? But I do this as a way to give back to BIPOC people, and I do this as a way to give back to women. I'm not doing this as a way to give back to white men. They happen to tune into the conversation and they decide to stay. That is their prerogative, and they're more than welcome to do so, but the content is not for them. It is for women to have the ability to have resources, to have the voice, to have the conversations, to have the arguments, to be able to stand up for themselves confidently with resources. Because the reality is that a lot of these men will try and talk over women, will dominate the conversation, and will make women act as if the statistics do not back what we are saying. And unfortunately for these people, I went to university for political science. I have sat in the same rooms that they have. I have sat in the same education environments that they have. The reality of the situation is you can be a very educated person, but that does not mean that you have empathy. That does not mean that you should cover every topic. That does not mean that you should be the spokesperson of every single thing that comes up on your For You page. There are plenty of issues and topics that I don't address because I'm not adequately prepared and knowledgeable enough to give a valid criticism, critique, education on. So if you're going to be a political content creator who comes on the internet and is trying to talk to women without being aware of what the dangers women face, the statistics that they face, what certain marginalized communities face, because I continuously see these people who are left-leaning progressive content creators repeatedly talking about Black people as if they live in the United States. And now don't get me wrong, there's Black people who suffer from marginalization in Canada, but that is not the primary community. But the thing is that they're trying to grow social media. They're not trying to actually advocate for these groups of people. And that's where my issue is. And the reality of making this type of content, I've received unaliving threats. I've lost my account, 71,000 followers. I lost one at 10,000, at 5,000. I've repeatedly started accounts over because for me, this is about educating people and helping others, giving back to the community. I went to University of Political Science. I have absolutely zero interest in pursuing politics in any capacity because all of them make me so angry. I don't want to sit in a room with people and discuss whether or not some people are considered people. But I will advocate that women should be viewed as people and taken seriously when they are expressing their feelings of discomfort and unsafety.